Hi everyone, today I'm reviewing the Blu-ray release of the animation of the classic Doctor Who story, The Abominable Snowman, that was originally transmitted in 1967. Like a lot of these classic stories, most of the footage was lost due to the tapes being wiped. However, the original episode 2 did survive, and along with the remaining audio soundtracks, which were made mostly by fans actually, that back in the old 60s used to have those reel to reel tape recorder machines with microphones, and they used to record all the soundtracks off the telly originally. So because of that fantastic dedication, we kept all of these soundtracks, and as I say, some of the missing episodes, and then the episodes that weren't surviving, a lot of them have been reanimated. Luckily, over the last few years, we've been quite lucky in that sense. I reviewed another one of these, Fury from the Deep, which is also available on the channel right here in the Doctor Who playlist, if you so wish to go and view that after seeing this video. The story, basically, of the Abominable Snowman is that a monk originally reached out and touched an alien disembodied energy known only as the Great Intelligence, gave it a conduit or connection to Earth. He was a previous friend of the Doctor's when he visited there beforehand, and now 300 years later the Doctor is returning to the Himalayas because he wants to return an ancient artifact, the Great Gunter, which is like an old-fashioned China bell. He wants to return it to the monks and their grateful master, whose name I cannot pronounce. So he returns 300 years later, but unfortunately, on arrival, he's treated as a villain because there's been a series of murders at the monastery, and he's treated as if he's the culprit. However, his companions Jamie and Victoria find out that the culprits are the Yeti, a former peace-loving race of creatures that have now turned violent. So now the Doctor not only has to convince the monks and their masters that he is not only not their enemy, but they've got something far worse to fear in the Violet Yetis and the Great Intelligence energy that's controlling them. As I say, it was originally transmitted in 1967. The animation was released last year. At present, it's the last animation to have been released from these 60s stories because BBC America pulled out of funding. So a lot of the production companies, including Big Finish, who also produced the audio adventures from Big Finish, they worked on this one, and that includes Gary Russell, who was the former editor of Doctor Who magazine. He writes an introduction to the story in the leaflet that comes with the Blu-ray set, as well as there's also production notes in that leaflet. You also get merchandise catalogue advertising of the Doctor Who merchandise. It's a 3-disc set on this Blu-ray. You get 3 different ways to watch the story. The first is the original soundtrack together with a black and white version of the animation, which is the way I tend to watch the Hartnell and Troughton releases that aren't complete, because to me black and white was the form that they were made, so it makes it the most authentic. That's on disc 1 with some of the extra features, which include audio commentaries and some 16mm old-fashioned film that was filmed on location, partly by Fraser Hines, who played Jamie in the series. You get audio commentaries, and then the rest of the special features are mostly on the third disc. The third disc has a telesnap reconstruction for the visuals, which is black and white slides that were made during the story to keep for prosperity, and also that's been used in more recent years as a way of people viewing stories where the films don't remain in completion, and also they use it for ones that have been animated. Disc 2, going back to Disc 2 for a moment, that's where you get the colour version of the animation as well as the audio soundtrack. So that's your three very distinct ways of watching the story. I love the story very much. It's very atmospheric, particularly amongst the Tibetan caves and the monastery and the monks and the abbot and the disembodied voice of the great intelligence. Very spooky, very intense. And I actually prefer this story to the second story with the Yeti, Web of Fear, although that's fantastic as well. My highlight of this Blu-ray set, apart from the story itself, is the main making of documentary, Troughton in Tibet, where Fraser Hines goes back with Toby Haydock and the makeup artist, I think it's Sylvia James. They reunite on the mountain tops of Snowdonia, and Toby has taken a TARDIS prop with him as a surprise for the others when they reunite with him. Obviously, they're looking back. They've got a lot of photos from their time on location, and also they show some of the clips of the Ode Cine film that they filmed on production. And I personally have a connection with this story because I've actually been to the top of Snowdonia. Like many holidaymakers, I went on the train up to the very top of the mountain, and I distinctly remember when we got to the top, my late granddad saying that's the first and the last time I come up here because it was so unbelievably cold. It took your breath. But to know that I had been to the location where, they were filming there, where the Yeti was, and where one of my favourite Doctor's most classic adventures had been filmed, that was quite a nice buzz to re-have that connection again. So that was lovely. It was produced, as a lot of the documentaries are, by Chris Chapman. He does a brilliant job on all the documentaries. He now works on the complete Blu-ray sets that are regularly produced as well. It was a fantastic set altogether. It's a shame at the moment that this is the last animated classic released on Blu-ray and DVD, but there are rumblings that there may be some more coming out. Whether they're going to look into another production company or not, I think they probably are, because there's rumblings and rumours going around, it has been for a few months now, that we may eventually be getting animated treatments of a couple of other stories, The Smugglers, and also The Underwater Menace, which, if they did an animation of that, would be absolutely fantastic, because the DVD release of that was eventually released was, I think, possibly the poorest Doctor Who DVD ever released in terms of presentation, of how we got to see that story. It almost made it unwatchable. But I'll possibly do a review of that original release some other time, and hopefully if we do get an animated version of that story and The Smugglers as well, I'll definitely bring that to the channel for you. So that's my review of The Abominable Snowman on Blu-ray and DVD, another Doctor Who classic. Given that it's Troughton, Second Doctor, one of my two most favourites, so it's a no-brainer that I have to have it in my collection. So, so I hope you enjoyed that quick review of that story. I will be back to my normal scheduling times of Friday for Friday's review, and on Friday we'll be reviewing a wrestling documentary, the original documentary DVD release of the Monday Night War, of the competitive Attitude Era time between WCW and WWE, and not to be confused with the Monday Night War documentary series that was on the WWE network. This is a completely separate release, and it was just a standalone DVD. So I'll be looking at that on Friday at 6 o'clock. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, as always, please give us a like. Please give us a subscription if you haven't already. And make sure that you click on the notification bell. Put it onto all, and then that way you don't miss updates about upcoming videos to the channel. And also keep an eye on the community tab on the channel, because I always post updates there about things that are coming to the channel and things for you to get involved in. So with that being said, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Take care, and I'll see you on Friday at 6. Bye, everybody.